Hey there, welcome. It is Dr. Terry Levine. Welcome to Digital Marketing for Coaches and Consultants. And today I'm going to talk to you as a master certified guerrilla marketing trainer and coach. I know how to weaponize personality in content and in marketing. And I want to share some ways with you that are not only really powerful, they're going to be very profitable. So the first one I call troll. Troll is something I rarely do, yet it is one of the most powerful ways to simultaneously win over your audience and attract fanatics to your side of the street. And the reason why is actually very simple. When you troll, you raise your status and you actually lower the other side's status. Now, I don't bring this up often. And I don't bring this person up often because I tend to avoid politics. The best example of trolling I've ever witnessed, really live, was Donald Trump's Twitter account before he stopped tweeting. Every day he would be trolling the media and they would fall for it. So it was a real masterclass in trolling. And again, it's not something I frequently use. The second one I use a lot, it's a big one. Bring them into your world. In fact, if you can master world building and ignore everything else that I'm going to teach you today, you will never have competition again. I really mean this. And this is also why George Lucas, the creator of Star Wars, happens to be a big fan. So he created the Star Wars franchise. He's a billionaire. Disney paid him billions to buy Star Wars. Why? They weren't buying a movie franchise. I want you to really get that. What were they buying? Not a movie franchise. They were buying an entire world. It's a whole star world or galaxy. And the way you do this in your marketing is to talk about your world. And then you invite your audience in. So for example, every time I post about my daily routine, I'm inviting my audience to experience my digital nomad lifestyle. Right? Where I wake up without an alarm clock, where I happen to drink unlimited amounts of coffee. Yes, I actually do. I love my coffee in my little entrepreneur cup. And that's just part of who I am. So I share that. It's a vice I'm choosing to keep. I, in my daily routine, show how I serve my client family members, how I get up every day, do a few posts, create value, and very often spend the afternoon sunbathing by the pool or at the beach. So I let people into my world. The third are recurring characters. So George Tenn, if you don't know him, he's called the grammar hippie. He does this really well with his wife. If you read George's content, which I recommend, you really should, you'll notice he's always telling these really funny stories that involve his wife. Now, I've never personally met his wife. However, based on George's content alone, I kind of feel like I already know her, right? I have a good sense of what she's like in real life. And it's kind of like his life is a sitcom and she's a main character in the sitcom. He's showing us through recurring characters. The fourth one is to use a motif. Now, a motif is a recurring idea or an object or anything like that that recurs over and over again in a story. It's a literary technique. I learned about this years and years ago by watching movies. So think of it as a dominant idea or a physical object that kind of weaves an entire story together. Here's an easy example. In Forrest Gump, the motif is a box of chocolates, right? In my marketing, as you saw a moment ago, it's coffee, okay? Number 5, analogies. Now, one way to think of analogies is a backdoor to the human brain, because what you're doing is relating your idea to an idea that the reader already understands, already in their brain. Now, I will admit that analogies are definitely not my strong point, yet it's something I am constantly working to improve. Kieran Drew is a master at analogies, and one of the many reasons he has a very large and pretty much fanatical audience. Number 6 is a really easy one, and that's favorite movies. It's easy because all of us can do this, and everyone tends to love some kind of movies, right? So what you do is you take something from your favorite movie and you relate it to whatever it is you're selling. So for example, I happen to be a very big Steven Spielberg fan. One of the things that his movies taught me was the importance of starting your story with an attention-grabbing hook. I easily was able to relate to that. So when I do videos or when I write emails or if I write a sales letter for a client or whatever it is, I use this hook style of writing. You can actually learn it just like I did. I actually learned it by watching Raiders of the Lost Ark. So it's kind of a fun way to learn. Number 7 is to be a broken record. You know the old saying, my parents always said this, you sound like a broken record, right? Well, because it's anti-persuasive. So if you want to persuade, influence, and really attract people with your personality, one of the best things that you can do is take your biggest ideas and repeat them in unique ways. You do want to be a broken record without sounding like one. And by the way, did I mention coffee is one of my favorite beverages? There you go. Number 8, make bold predictions. So let me give you an insight into human nature. People are typically scared to make bold predictions, which is why they cling to people who have the guts to make them. Whether or not these predictions turn out to be true, it doesn't even really matter. What matters is that you make them, and you make them with boldness and with conviction. So a good example of this is those crazy cult leaders who predict, the world's going to end by XYZ date. And then that date comes and that date goes, and they're kind of quiet for a short time and then they come back. And they've got a new story with a new world ending date, right? And each time their followers fall for it. Now, it's pretty crazy. However, boldness is a rare trait. And so if you can make bold predictions, people will listen. Number 9 is interesting facts. This is a very simple one here. All you do is Google interesting facts about whatever, software as a service, interesting facts about digital marketing, interesting facts about business consulting, whatever. And then relate that to whatever interesting fact is in your offer, your idea, your program, your service. So for example, I literally, right before I did our podcast today, I Googled interesting facts about walking. And I learned that one single step requires 200 muscles in your body. I don't know if you knew that. I didn't. I found that really interesting. Now, I could write an email about how writing is similar in that when you write, you're using a lot more brain power than you think because writing, just like walking, seems really simple on the outside, yet it's way more complex than it appears. And just as walking helps you train 200 muscles at once, writing helps you practice imagination, complexity, reasoning, and writing skills all at once. So I can tie them together and pull them together. Interesting facts. And then number 10 is controversy. And I am not sure what it is about controversy. What I do know is that people can never seem to get enough of it. So Dana White from the UFC once said that if you take 4 street corners and on one they're playing baseball, another they're playing basketball, another they're playing street hockey. On the 4th corner, a fight breaks out. Where does the crowd go? They all go to the fight. On one level, yes, we're drawn to violence. The reason that the crowd goes to the fight is because of the drama and the controversy of it. Now, I'm not saying you should go around picking fights. I am saying that there's an idea that might be able to cause some controversy. If you have an idea like that, you want to lean into it as far as you can. Hope this has created value for you. And I look forward to you sharing the podcast, subscribing, and also to your reviews. Thanks for joining me here today at this episode of Digital Marketing for Coaches and Consultants. I'll see you next time.